Nia Vance never imagined that the day before her own wedding, she would be standing outside her office building staring into the face of a man she hadn't seen in 20 years. Elijah Vance, her father, the same man who one morning simply didn't come home, leaving a 5-year-old girl and her mother alone with an empty refrigerator and a stack of unpaid bills. He was standing near the service entrance, leaning against the gray brick wall of the building. The September sun was hitting her eyes, and at first, Nia didn't realize who it was. Just a silhouette. A man in his 60s wearing a faded jacket with short graying hair. Then he stepped forward and she saw his face. The recognition hit her like a punch to the gut. The same eyes, the same gaze, only wrinkles. So many wrinkles. And a strange weariness about him. "Nia," he said quietly. "Wait, just listen to me." Nia stopped. Not because she wanted to, but because her legs simply refused to move. For 20 years, she had imagined this meeting. For 20 years, she had rehearsed the words she would throw in his face. But now, all those words had vanished, dissolved into the air and the silence between them. "There's no excuse for what I did," Elijah said. His voice was steady, without tremors, without tears. "But that's not what this is about right now." Nia scoffed. She looked at him in disbelief. "Not about that? Seriously? You show up here after 2 decades to tell me it's not about that?" He didn't look away. He didn't try to justify himself. He just stood there, as if he knew he had exactly 1 minute and wasting it on apologies was pointless. "Tomorrow," he said slowly, articulating every word, "when you walk out of the courthouse, a black luxury van with a white ribbon on the hood will pull up to you. Do not get in it, under any circumstances." Nia raised her eyebrows. It was so unexpected that she couldn't find an answer immediately. "What? Don't get in the car that's coming for me?" Nia repeated. "I'll be waiting around the corner," her father said. "Just trust me, please." Nia laughed. The sound was hysterical, sharp. "Do you realize how absurd this is? You abandoned Mom and me when I was 5. 20 years of silence. And now you pop up on the eve of the most important day of my life talking nonsense about a black van?" Elijah remained silent. His face was unreadable. No emotion, no attempt to pull at her heartstrings. He didn't reach out, didn't take a step toward her. He just stood and looked at her, as if he knew she wouldn't believe him anyway. "Did you hear me?" he asked finally. "I heard you," Nia snapped. "And you know what? I want you to leave. I don't know why you came. Maybe your conscience woke up, or maybe you just got bored. But I don't care. I'm getting married tomorrow, understand? Married. I'm not going to waste another minute of my time on you." She turned around and walked toward the entrance, fast, almost running. Her heart was racing, pounding in her temples. Her hands wouldn't cooperate when she tried to tap her badge at the turnstile. Elijah didn't call after her, didn't run to catch up. When Nia glanced back at the elevators, his silhouette was still looming by the entrance. He just stood there, watching her go. Then he turned and slowly walked away. Nia went up to her office and locked herself in the restroom. She sat on the lid of the toilet and buried her face in her hands. She didn't cry, she just sat there trying to calm her breathing. A black van, a white ribbon. Don't get in. What kind of nonsense was that? What was he even talking about? Nia pulled out her phone and stared at the screen. Darius was smiling back at her from the wallpaper photo. Her fiancé, her future husband. Tomorrow at exactly 11 in the morning, they would become husband and wife, and no black van or long-lost father was going to ruin this day for her. She wiped her face with her palm, fixed her hair, and left the restroom. "Nia, girl, why are you so pale?" asked her colleague, Shanice, meeting her by the water cooler. "Everything's fine, just nerves. Tomorrow's the big day." "I get it. I didn't sleep for 3 nights before my wedding. But it'll all settle down, you'll see." Nia nodded and went to her cubicle. The rest of the day passed in a fog. She tried to focus on work, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the encounter with her father. Why now? Why today? That evening, when Nia returned to their apartment, she saw that Darius was already there. He was sitting at the kitchen island, scrolling through something on his phone, frowning. "Hey, baby," she said, kissing him on the cheek. Something happen? Nah, everything's good. Just my mom called. Started in about the reception again. Says we should have picked a bigger venue. Nia chuckled softly. Loretta Mercer, Darius's mother, was a domineering and stubborn woman. From the moment Darius proposed, she had tried to control every aspect of the wedding. The dress selection, the menu, the guest list. She stuck her nose everywhere. Darius, it's our wedding, Nia reminded him gently, not hers. I know. She's just like that. Anyway, forget it. Tomorrow's going to be perfect. He hugged her, and Nia leaned into him, her warm, reliable Darius, the man who had burst into her life 3 years ago and turned everything upside down, successful, confident, with his own business. The construction company his father had founded before passing away brought in a steady income. Not millions, but enough to live comfortably. Darius, Nia began quietly, what if something went wrong tomorrow? He pulled back slightly and looked at her with mild concern. What do you mean? I don't know, just unexpected things happen. Nia, what are you talking about? You got cold feet? No, of course not, just nerves. Never mind. She didn't tell him about her father. Why bother? Just to ruin Darius's mood on the eve of the wedding? To make him start asking questions she didn't have answers to? They had dinner, watched a movie, and then Darius left to stay at his mother's house. Tradition. Nia couldn't sleep for a long time. She lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying her father's words in her head. Black luxury van, white ribbon, don't get in. Why did he say it with such certainty? Why didn't he try to explain? He just said it and left, as if he knew nothing else was needed. The next morning, Nia woke up to her alarm. 7 o'clock, wedding day. She lay there for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling, then sat up abruptly and stretched. Nerves, adrenaline, anticipation. Darius had left for his place the night before. Bad luck to see the bride before the ceremony. Nia was home alone. She took a long shower, dried her hair, curled it into soft waves, sprayed them with hairspray, and did her makeup. The dress hung by the window. White, elegant, nothing over the top. Nia didn't like puffy, excessive outfits. She liked things sleek and tasteful. At 9 o'clock, her best friend Keisha, the maid of honor, arrived. She brought the bouquet, a bottle of champagne, and a lot of hype. Girl, look at you! Darius is going to pass out when he sees you. Nia smiled. Inside, her stomach was in knots. Good, nervous knots. The kind you get before something important and long awaited. They each had a glass of champagne, laughed, and took a ton of photos. Keisha helped secure the veil. Then the car arrived. A white limo, decorated with ribbons and flowers. The wedding procession. Just as planned. The courthouse was downtown, a historic building with grand columns. When they pulled up, guests were already crowding the entrance. Relatives, friends, colleagues, all dressed up and smiling. Darius stood on the steps in a black tuxedo, tall and stately, flashing that signature confident smile of his. Nia stepped out of the car and he walked toward her. You look absolutely stunning. God, I have no words, he whispered, taking her hand. The ceremony went smoothly. Vows, rings, the kiss, applause, congratulations. Guests surrounded them on all sides, throwing confetti. The photographer's shutter clicked non-stop. Nia laughed, hugged Darius, and tossed the bouquet, which one of the girls caught amidst delighted squeals. It was like a fairy tale, exactly how she had imagined. Then they walked outside. Guests started getting into their cars. Some had already left for the reception venue, the Golden Hall, where the banquet was to be held. The photographer distracted Darius. He needed to discuss some details about the shoot, the route, the angles. Darius stepped aside, gesturing and explaining something. Nia stood by the curb, holding her small white clutch and smiling. Keisha had stepped away to fix her makeup. The crowd buzzed around her. But for a moment, Nia was left alone. And then, a black luxury van pulled up to the curb, with a white ribbon on the hood. Nia's heart stopped. She stared at the vehicle, not believing her eyes. It couldn't be true. It had to be a coincidence. Just a car, just a regular white ribbon. A man in a dark suit stepped out of the driver's side, walked up to Nia, and nodded politely. "Mrs. Vance Mercer?" She nodded, unable to speak. "We've been asked to transport you separately. Mr. Mercer will arrive later. He said it's a surprise." The driver's voice was even, calm, professional. He opened the rear door, and Nia saw the interior. Leather seats, and a woman sitting in the back. Elegant, about 50 years old, in a sharp business suit. A folder of documents lay on the seat in front of her. "Good afternoon," the woman said, smiling. "My name is Alana Dubois. I'm the family attorney. We need to discuss a few formalities while we drive to the reception. It won't take much time." Nia stood frozen. Everything inside her was screaming. Everything her father had said turned out to be true. The black van, the white ribbon, the lawyer, the documents. "Nia," the woman called out, frowning slightly. "Is everything all right?" Nia turned around sharply. Darius was still standing a bit further away, talking to the photographer. Keisha had disappeared somewhere. The guests had scattered. No one was watching what was happening. And then she remembered not her father's words, but his tone. That flat, confident tone. No begging, no hysterics, just a fact. "Don't get in." Nia took a step back. "I'm sorry," she said. I need to grab something. 1 minute." She turned and walked quickly away from the van. Not running, that would be too noticeable. Just walking briskly around the side of the courthouse building. She turned the corner, and there, leaning against an old gray Buick, stood her father. Their eyes met. Nia realized he knew. He knew exactly what was going to happen. "Let's go," Elijah said, opening the passenger door. "I'll explain on the way." Nia looked at him, then glanced back. From around the corner came the sound of an engine starting. The van was driving away, without her. She got into her father's car. Her hands were trembling. Her whole body was tense as a wire. Elijah started the engine and smoothly pulled out. He stayed silent, didn't rush her. Nia stared out the window, trying to gather her thoughts. "How did you know?" she finally squeezed out. Her father silently reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and handed it to her. Nia unfolded it. A printout of a transport service order. Date, 1 week ago. Client, Apex Consulting LLC. Description, executive sprinter, no company logos. Route, pickup post-ceremony, drive via industrial district. Note in small print, bride travels alone. Lawyer with documents will be present in vehicle. Driver is not to interfere. Nia read it 3 times. Then she looked up at her father. "What does this mean?" "It means," Elijah answered steadily, "that they wanted to take you to a quiet place and force you to sign papers. While all the guests are at the restaurant, while the groom is waiting for you, because his mother would tell him there's some sort of surprise. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, it would have been too late." Nia felt cold all over. "Who ordered this car?" Elijah didn't answer immediately. He kept his eyes on the road. Then he said quietly, "Your brand new mother-in-law." Nia sat in her father's car, staring at the printout he had given her. The letters swam before her eyes. She read the lines over and over, trying to find some mistake, some explanation that would make this less terrifying. Bride travels alone. Lawyer with documents will be present. "Loretta?" Nia asked, looking up at her father. "Are you sure?" Elijah nodded. He drove calmly, without fuss. They were heading toward the outskirts of the city, passing residential blocks and strip malls. "I checked the client. Apex Consulting is registered to Loretta Mercer. She opened it 2 years ago. Formally, it's consulting services, but in reality, the company barely operates. Minimal tax reporting. She uses it for one-off operations." Nia listened and couldn't believe it. Loretta, Darius's mother, the woman who told stories about her son's childhood at family dinners, baked sweet potato pies, and called Nia daughter. "How did you even see this order?" Nia asked. You're a driver? Dispatcher, her father corrected. For the last 5 years, I've been working as a dispatcher at Metro City Transport. We service VIP clients, weddings, corporate events. I take orders, assign cars, monitor routes. He paused, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Nia saw his shoulders tense up. This order came in a week ago, Elijah continued. Looked normal at first, executive van for a wedding, but I always read the comments. It's part of the job. And when I saw that phrase about the bride in the documents, something clicked. Too strange. Why drive the bride alone? Why a lawyer in a wedding car? Nia stayed silent. Her father went on. I checked the date. Then the bride's name. Nia Vance. I didn't realize it was you right away. The last name is, well, it's ours. But when I saw it, I decided to check, just in case. Nia, I know I have no right to show up in your life, but I couldn't just stand aside. His voice didn't waver. There were no tears, no excuses, just dry facts. Nia realized that this was exactly what made it so scary. Her father wasn't trying to elicit pity. He was simply doing what he thought was necessary. I started digging, Elijah said. Checked the client, traced it to Loretta Mercer. Then I found information on her son, Darius Mercer, owner of a construction company. I pulled public records on his business. Nia, he has problems. Serious problems. Nia's heart skipped a beat. What kind of problems? Debt. Massive debt. His company took out loans for expansion 2 years ago. Several major projects fell through. Clients pulled out of contracts. One went bankrupt. In the end, Darius was left with unfinished projects and loans he can't pay. The banks are demanding repayment. If he doesn't find the money in the next 6 months, his company goes under. Nia stared at her father. How do you know that? I have an acquaintance who works in the loan department of one of the banks. I asked him to check, off the record. He confirmed it. Darius Mercer is on the brink of collapse. Nia shook her head. No, that's impossible. Darius didn't tell me anything. We've been together 3 years. He would have told me if things were that bad. Maybe he didn't want to upset you, Elijah suggested, or he hoped it would all resolve itself. But his mother, it seems, decided to handle things her own way. Nia fell silent. Thoughts raced through her mind. Darius, debt, Loretta, documents in the van. What kind of documents did she want me to sign? Nia asked quietly. I don't know for sure, her father admitted, but judging by everything, something related to financial obligations. Surety, power of attorney, consent to joint liability for debts. After the marriage registration, you become a wife. Documents signed by you come into force, and you automatically get dragged into his financial mess. Nia felt a chill run through her. So, they wanted to use me to cover Darius's debts? Most likely, yes. Loretta is an experienced woman. She knows how these schemes work. Take you to a quiet place while everyone's at the reception. The lawyer explains that it's a formality, that it's necessary, that everyone does it. You sign without even reading closely. And then it turns out you're now responsible for millions in debt. Nia covered her face with her hands. It was too much, too scary, too vile. But what could they even take from me? She asked, dropping her hands and looking at her father. I work in procurement. The salary is good, but not astronomical. I don't own a business. I don't have huge savings. Why me? Elijah looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, Nia, you still have the 3-bedroom condo downtown after your mother passed. 1,200 square feet in a gentrified neighborhood. Do you remember how much it's worth? Nia thought about it. The condo, the one she grew up in, where her mom spent the last years of her life. After her mother's death, Nia inherited it. She lived there. Darius had moved out of his mother's place and lived with her in that apartment. About $650,000, she answered slowly. Maybe 700 in this market, Elijah corrected. And that's not all. You have the cabin upstate that Grandma left you. 10 acres, 20 miles out of town. House, land. Do you remember the last time you went there? Nia remembered. the cabin, the small wooden house, the apple orchard, the creek nearby. Grandma had died 8 years ago and left the property to her granddaughter. Nia rarely went there, no time, but it was a good place, well kept. Neighbors looked after the lot in exchange for using the land. A couple of years ago, she admitted, everything's fine there. Neighbors keep an eye on it. That land is worth about $250,000 now, Elijah said. Maybe more. Real estate in that county skyrocketed after they put in the new highway. Developers are buying up land for subdivisions. Nia felt her mouth go dry. $650,000 for the condo. $250,000 for the land. That was nearly $1 million in assets. That would be enough to completely wipe out Darius's debt and have some left over. My God, she whispered, they wanted access to my property. Exactly, Elijah nodded. The documents they would have slipped you in that car would give Darius or his mother the right to dispose of your property in case of financial difficulties. Formally, it would look like a joint decision between spouses. Practically, your condo and land would become collateral for Darius's debts. Nia stared at her father. So if Darius couldn't pay the loan, the bank could take my home? Not exactly the bank, Elijah corrected. The bank wouldn't have direct access to your property initially. But according to those documents, Darius or his proxy would get the right to sell your real estate to pay off debts. And the proxy would likely be Loretta. You would have signed papers without even knowing you were handing over control of your inheritance. Why didn't you go to the police? She asked, letting her hands fall. Why not just report it? Because technically, no crime has been committed yet, Elijah answered. Ordering a car isn't a crime. A lawyer in the backseat isn't a crime. Until you got in that car, until they drove you away, until you signed something, there's no crime. The police wouldn't even look at a report like that. At most, they'd tell you to be careful. Nia exhaled. The logic was ironclad and terrifying. I was supposed to just trust you, she said. The man who abandoned me 20 years ago. Her father said nothing. He turned onto a side street and stopped the car near a small diner. Let's go, he said. You need to pull yourself together. Then you can decide what to do next. They walked into the diner. It was almost empty. Just a couple of customers by the window. Elijah ordered 2 coffees and sat opposite his daughter at a corner booth. Nia looked at him, trying to understand what she was feeling. Anger, gratitude, fear, all of it at once. Why did you leave? She asked suddenly. 20 years ago. Why did you just disappear? Elijah picked up his coffee cup, took a sip. His face remained impassive. I was weak, he said. Work wasn't going well. Money was tight. Your mother was constantly on my case. I couldn't handle it. I ran. It's the worst thing I've ever done in my life. Nia waited for more. Nothing followed. That's it? She asked. Just ran away? That's it? That's it, Elijah confirmed. There are no excuses. Never were, never will be. Nia gripped her cup. Strangely, this honesty was more calming than any tearful apology. Mom died 10 years ago, Nia said. Cancer. She worked until the very end to provide for me. You didn't even know. I knew, her father answered quietly. I found out 6 months after she passed, from old friends. I wanted to go to the cemetery, but I didn't dare. Nia looked at him, not knowing what to say. Be angry? Forgive? Push him away? Why are you even keeping tabs on my life? She asked. I'm not, Elijah countered. I just hear things occasionally by accident. The city isn't that big. Mutual acquaintances. I knew you were working in procurement, that you were doing well. That was enough for me. Nia sighed. And now? What do I do now? Go back to Darius and say, hey honey, your mom wanted to scam me and saddle me with your debts? That's your choice, Elijah said. I can't decide for you. But you have the right to know the truth, and you have the right to demand explanations. Nia pulled out her phone. 12 missed calls, 8 from Darius, 3 from Keisha, 1 from a coworker. Even more texts. Where are you, Nia? Pick up. We're worried. Are you okay? She looked at her father. Darius is losing his mind right now. Everyone's waiting at the reception. I have to call. Call, Elijah nodded. Just think about what you're going to say. Nia dialed Darius's number. He answered on the first ring. Nia, oh my God, where are you? I almost lost my mind. Are you okay? His voice was full of panic. Real, genuine panic. I'm okay. My phone was off, Nia said. Darius, I need to talk to you, urgently, alone. About what? What happened? You left and no one knows where. Keisha says you just vanished. Darius, did you know your mother ordered a separate car for me? With a lawyer inside? Silence. Long, heavy silence. What? Darius finally squeezed out. What car? What lawyer? A black luxury van. Your mother ordered it through her company. It pulled up to the courthouse right after the ceremony. The driver said you'd arrive later, that it was a surprise. Inside was a woman who introduced herself as the family attorney, with documents. Another pause. Then, hollowly, I didn't know anything. Nia, do you swear? I swear to you, I had no idea. What car? What lawyer? I didn't order anything like that. Nia heard the confusion in his voice, the shock. But was there a lie? Your mother ordered it, Nia repeated. Through Apex Consulting. That's her company. Darius was silent. Then quietly, almost a whisper. Jesus. Mom. She couldn't do that. She could, Nia said firmly. And she did. Darius, you have debts. Big business debts? The silence became even heavier. How do you know? Darius finally choked out. It doesn't matter. Answer the question. He sighed, a long, tired sigh. Yes, there are problems, serious problems. I wanted to tell you after the wedding. I didn't want to ruin the day. Did your mother know? Of course she knew. She tried to help me, looked for investors, suggested different options. But I didn't think... Nia, I swear, I didn't know she planned this car thing. Nia closed her eyes. Darius wasn't lying. She could hear it in his voice. He didn't know, but his mother knew and acted. Where are you now? Darius asked. At a diner on the outskirts. I'll text you the address. Come here. We'll talk. Please. Nia looked at her father. He nodded silently. Okay, Nia said. Come, but alone, without your mother. Without my mother, Darius repeated. I promise. She hung up and looked at her father. He didn't know, Nia said. I'm sure of it. He didn't know maybe, agreed Elijah, but his mother definitely knew and acted purposefully. Nia nodded. 20 minutes later, Darius's car pulled up to the diner. He got out, looked around, and quickly walked inside. He saw Nia and froze. Then his gaze fell on the man sitting next to her. Who is this? Darius asked, approaching the table. My father, Nia answered. He warned me about the car. Darius stared at Elijah. You're the father? The one who... Yes, Nia interrupted. That one. He works as a dispatcher at the company that handled your mother's order. He saw the request and realized it was a trap. Darius slowly sank into a chair. His face was pale. I didn't know, he repeated. I swear to you, Nia, I knew nothing. But you do have debts, Nia said. I do, Darius admitted. $750,000. The bank is demanding repayment. I tried to negotiate restructuring, but they refused. I have 6 months. If I don't find the money, I lose everything. Nia nodded. And your mother decided I could be the solution. Darius sighed. I'll talk to her. Right now. This is unacceptable. You will, agreed Nia. But first, I need guarantees. I want to know there will be no more surprises. I want to see the documents she was going to slip me. Darius nodded. You'll see them, I promise. Nia, forgive me. Forgive me for not telling you sooner. I didn't want you worrying about debts. Those are my problems alone." Nia looked at him, then at her father, then back at Darius. "We're going to your mother right now, and she's going to explain everything to us, down to the last letter." Darius nodded. "Let's go." The three of them left the diner. The wedding, which was supposed to be the happiest day, had turned into an interrogation. But Nia knew, better to know the truth now than live a lie. Then they sat, just the two of them, in Darius's car, Nia in the passenger seat. Elijah got into his own car, ready to follow the newlyweds. The silence was heavy, tense. Darius gripped the steering wheel. "Where are we going?" he asked, staring straight ahead. "To the reception," Nia answered. "To where the guests are waiting. And your mother." Darius nodded, started the engine, and pulled out. The city floated by outside the window. Bright storefronts, autumn trees, people on sidewalks. Just a normal day for everyone else. But for Nia, this day had flipped everything upside down. "Are you sure you want to have this conversation right there?" Darius asked. "In front of all the guests?" "Not in front of everyone," Nia answered. "But I want her to understand that we know. We know everything, and no more games." Darius remained silent the rest of the drive, just staring ahead, immersed in his thoughts. The reception venue, the Golden Hall, was downtown, a historic mansion with columns and wide windows. When they pulled up, several cars from the wedding party were parked out front. Guests had already gathered inside, waiting for the banquet to begin. Darius parked and killed the engine. For a few seconds, they sat in silence. "Ready?" Nia asked. Darius exhaled. "Ready." They got out of the car and headed for the entrance. Nia adjusted her dress, squared her shoulders. Inside, everything was tight with tension, but she wouldn't allow herself to show weakness. Elijah walked slightly behind, quiet and unnoticed. In the lobby, the coordinator met them, a young woman in a black suit with a headset. "Mr. Mercer, Nia, we were getting worried. The guests are waiting. Dinner was supposed to start 20 minutes ago." "Sorry for the delay," Darius said. "Circumstances. We're coming in now." They walked into the banquet hall, a large room with high ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and long tables covered in snowy white tablecloths. Guests sat at the tables, talking, drinking champagne. When the newlyweds entered, everyone turned and applauded. "Kiss! Kiss!" someone shouted. Darius and Nia forced smiles and kissed to the applause. Nia quickly scanned the room. Keisha was sitting at a table to the right, waving at her. Nia's co-workers were at the next table. Darius's relatives were on the left. And there, in the center of the family table, sat Loretta Mercer. Tall, stately, in a beige gown and a beautiful necklace. She was watching them, smiling, but her gaze remained unperturbed. Nia caught her eye. Loretta tensed for a split second, noticing the man who walked in behind the couple. Elijah stayed in the shadows, but his presence was palpable. "Darius," Nia said quietly, "ask the manager to give us a private room. We need to talk to your mother alone." Darius nodded and walked over to the manager's station. He returned a minute later. "They gave us the parlor room. It's quiet. No one will disturb us." Nia walked up to the table where Loretta sat. Guests around them chatted and laughed, oblivious to the tension hanging in the air. "Loretta," Nia addressed her politely but firmly, "we need to speak with you, now, in private." Loretta raised an eyebrow. "Talk? Now? Nia, we have a reception. Guests are waiting." "The guests will wait," Darius answered coldly, stepping up to his mother. "Let's go. It's important." Loretta looked at her son, then at Nia, then at Elijah standing a bit further away. Something in her eyes changed. She realized something serious had happened. "Fine," she said, standing up from the table. "Lead the way." The four of them walked through the banquet hall to the exit. Guests followed them with curious glances, but no one dared ask what was happening. The manager led them to the parlor room, a cozy space with round tables, a few armchairs, and a large window overlooking the garden. Darius closed the door. Loretta sat in one of the armchairs. Her face remained calm, but Nia saw the tension in her posture. "I'm listening," Loretta said in an even tone. Darius walked up to her and leaned his hands on the back of the adjacent chair. "Mom, did you order a van for Nia through your company?" Loretta didn't blink. "I did. So what?" "With a lawyer inside? With documents?" "Darius, I don't understand these questions. Yes, I ordered a car. I wanted Nia to arrive comfortably. And Alana Dubois is our family attorney. I asked her to prepare a few documents Nia needed to sign." "What documents?" Nia asked sharply, taking a step forward. Loretta looked at her. Her gaze hardened. "Standard papers, consent to joint property ownership, power of attorney for representing family interests in financial matters. Usual formalities all newlyweds sign." "That's a lie," Elijah said calmly, stepping out of the shadows. Loretta turned to him, her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me, and who are you to interfere in our family business?" "I'm the man who saw your transport service request," Elijah answered, pulling the folded paper from his pocket. "This doesn't look like standard formalities." He handed the printout to Darius. "Mom, is this true?" Darius exhaled. "You really planned this?" Loretta was silent for a few seconds, then scoffed. "You work for a transport company?" she asked Elijah. "Yes, as a dispatcher." "And you decided to play hero, save the poor bride from the evil mother-in-law?" "I decided to warn my daughter," Elijah said steadily, "that she was being scammed." "Daughter? And here I thought Nia was an orphan." Loretta feigned surprise. She stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the garden where guests were smoking among the trees. "Darius," she began, not turning around, "your company is on the verge of bankruptcy. You know it. $750,000 in debt. The bank is demanding repayment. You have no money, no assets to sell. You're losing everything you built for 5 years. Darius went pale. "Mom, I'll handle it. I'll find a way." "What way?" Loretta spun around. Her voice turned hard, almost metallic. "You've been looking for investors for 6 months. No one wants to invest in a sinking ship. The bank won't give an extension. In 3 months, foreclosure proceedings begin. You'll be left with nothing. And you decided Nia was the solution?" Darius raised his voice. "What? Hanging my debt on her fixes everything?" Loretta held his gaze. "I decided to secure our family. If you're married, your wife bears part of the responsibility. That is family. I wanted Nia to sign documents that would distribute financial obligations between you. It's standard practice." "Standard practice to deceive a bride, drive her away alone, and force her to sign papers without reading them?" Nia asked coldly. Loretta looked at her with a slight smirk. "I wasn't going to force you. Alana would have explained everything. You would have signed voluntarily." "Voluntarily?" Nia took a step forward. "Do you honestly think I would have agreed to take on nearly $1 million in debt if I knew the truth?" "You love my son," Loretta said. "Doesn't love imply a willingness to share his burdens?" Nia felt anger boiling inside her. "Love implies honesty, not traps and manipulation." Loretta scoffed and returned to the armchair, but didn't sit. She stood leaning her hand on the backrest. "You're a naive girl, Nia. You think marriage is all love and romance. Marriage is a business, a union of 2 families, and in this union, everyone must carry their share of the load." "Mom, stop it!" Darius slammed his fist on the table. The sound echoed through the room, making everyone jump. "You're crossing every line. I didn't ask you to interfere. I didn't ask you to order that car." Loretta turned to her son. Her face turned cold as ice. "You didn't ask because you're weak, Darius. You've always been weak. I raised you, gave you an education. Your late father helped open the business. And you? You ran it into debt, and now you're crying about problems? I tried to fix your mistakes, tried to save what was left." Darius was silent. "You wanted to use me," Nia said quietly but distinctly, "and all without my real consent." "You wanted to scam me with your consent?" Loretta corrected, straightening up. "You would have signed the documents. Alana would have explained everything in the broadest terms." Elijah stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but there was steel in it. "That's called fraud. You can go to prison for that." Loretta laughed, shortly, contemptuously. "Prison? Are you serious? I didn't steal money from her. I didn't threaten her. I just wanted her to sign a few papers herself. Where's the crime?" "Documents signed under duress or deception can be contested in court," Elijah said, "especially if there's proof. And there is. The car order with comments, witnesses, the driver, the very fact that you hired a lawyer specifically for this purpose." Loretta stopped smiling. She looked at Elijah carefully, assessing him. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm stating facts," Elijah replied calmly. "You tried to defraud my daughter, and it can be proven." Loretta slowly sank into the armchair, folded her hands in her lap. Her face took on a thoughtful expression. "Fine," she said after a pause. "Let's assume you're right. Let's assume I really wanted Nia to sign those documents. What are you going to do? Go to the police? Sue me? And what will that achieve? Darius will still be in debt. You'll still live in constant fear that the bank will take everything." "It gives me the assurance that you won't try to scam me again," Nia said firmly. "And it gives Darius the understanding of who he's dealing with. A mother ready to sacrifice his happiness for money." Darius stood silently, looking at his mother. Then slowly, weighing every word, he said, "I'm cutting all business ties with you. You no longer have any relation to my company. You don't make decisions. You don't interfere in my life. Is that clear?" Loretta looked at her son as if he had slapped her. Her face distorted. Pain flashed in her eyes, which she immediately hid behind a mask of coldness. "You choose her over me?" Her voice trembled with barely suppressed emotion. "This girl who doesn't even understand who she married? You choose her over the mother who dedicated her whole life to you?" "I choose honesty," Darius answered firmly. "I choose to live without lies and manipulation. I choose to build my family on trust, not deceit. And if you can't accept that, then yes, I choose her." Loretta stood up abruptly. Her eyes were shining, either from tears or rage. "You'll regret this, Darius. When you're on the street without a dime, when the bank takes everything you have, you'll realize I was right. You'll realize I only wanted the best for you." "Maybe," Darius nodded, "but at least I'll know I took the honest path, that I didn't betray the person I love, that I didn't turn my wife into a hostage of someone else's debts." Nia took Darius's hand and squeezed it hard. He squeezed back, and in that handshake, there was more support and love than in any words. "We need to get back to our guests," Nia said, looking at Loretta. "But if you try to interfere in our lives again, if you try to manipulate us or lie again, I will go to the police, with all the evidence, and I'll tell everything." Loretta was silent. She stood in the middle of the room, watching them leave with a stony gaze. Her lips were pressed tight. "You can stay for the banquet," Darius added at the door. "Or leave. Decide for yourself. But keep in mind, as a mother, you no longer have the right to tell me how to live." They left the parlor room and closed the door behind them. They walked down the corridor back to the banquet hall. Guests greeted them with applause. Someone shouted, "Kiss!" again. Darius and Nia kissed, and the hall exploded with laughter and renewed cheering. Elijah stopped at the entrance to the hall. "I should go," he said quietly to Nia. "This is your celebration. I'm out of place here." Nia turned to him. "You're not out of place. You saved me. You saved both of us." Elijah shook his head. "I just did what I had to. Take care of yourself, Nia. And him, too." He nodded toward Darius and headed for the exit. Nia watched him go and felt a strange warmth inside. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was the start of something new. The banquet continued. Toasts, dancing, laughter. Loretta never returned to the hall. One of the guests asked where she was, and Darius answered that she felt unwell and left. No one asked further questions. Nia danced with Darius to slow music, thinking about how strange this day turned out to be. A wedding that almost turned into a trap. A father who appeared after 20 years of silence. A husband who turned out stronger and more honest than she thought. And a mother-in-law ready to commit a crime to save what she considered important. "What are we going to do?" Nia asked Darius, pressing closer. "We'll figure it out." Darius kissed her lips. "We'll fix it all, together." And in that moment, Nia believed him, truly believed him, because they had walked through fire on the very first day of their marriage and remained standing. The reception ended late that night. Guests dispersed, leaving behind empty glasses, crumpled napkins, and the atmosphere of a celebration that had happened after all. Nia and Darius returned home in silence. Each was lost in their own thoughts. The next morning began with a phone call. Darius answered, standing in the kitchen with a cup of coffee. "Hello, Mr. Mercer? This is Alana Dubois. We need to meet." Darius froze. The lawyer. The woman who sat in the van with the documents. Why? "I have things to tell you about yesterday's situation and about your mother's plans. Meet me at 2 p.m. at the cafe near the theater." Darius looked at Nia. She was standing in the doorway watching him. "Okay," he agreed. "We'll be there." He hung up and turned to his wife. "Dubois wants to meet, says she'll tell us everything about Mom's plans." Nia nodded. "Then we go. And we bring my father. He needs to hear this." At 2 o'clock, the three of them sat at a corner table in a small cafe downtown. Alana Dubois arrived right on time, elegant, collected, leather folder in hand. She sat opposite them and got straight to the point. "I want to apologize," she began, "for yesterday. I didn't know all the details. Loretta Mercer hired me as counsel and asked me to prepare documents. She said it was a pre-agreed procedure." "And you believed her?" Nia asked coldly. Alana held her gaze. "I'm a professional. I do what clients ask if it doesn't violate the law. Loretta presented the situation as a standard family agreement, but last night she called me and said the plan fell through, and that's when I realized I was being used." "Used how?" Darius asked. Alana opened the folder and pulled out several documents. "These are the papers I was supposed to have Nia sign. First document, consent to surety for Darius's credit obligations. Second, power of attorney for property disposal in favor of the family. Third, agreement on joint liability for all financial obligations." Nia took the documents and started reading. With every line, her face grew paler. Darius snatched the papers from Nia's hands and scanned the text. This is slavery," he exhaled. "Mom wanted to make Nia my financial slave." "Essentially, yes," Alana agreed. "These documents are drafted so that formally everything looks legal. Voluntary consent, signature, date. But factually, it's a trap. After signing, Nia would bear full responsibility for your debts, Darius." Elijah took the documents and studied them closely. "Why did you come to us?" Nia asked. "Why tell us this?" Alana paused. "Because I don't want to be part of a fraudulent scheme. I've been a lawyer for 20 years. I have a reputation, and I'm not going to lose it for Loretta Mercer. Besides, last night she called me and demanded I destroy all copies of the documents. Said if I told anyone, she'd ruin my career. That was a threat, and I don't tolerate threats." "God, my mother is a criminal," Darius said. "Not exactly," Alana corrected. "Technically, she hasn't committed a crime. She ordered a car, hired a lawyer, prepared documents, all legal. The problem is the documents were drafted with intent to deceive. But proving that in court is difficult, though not impossible," Elijah said. "We have the transport request with comments. We have witnesses. We have the documents themselves. That's enough to show intent." Alana nodded. "Yes, if you wanted to sue, you'd have a chance, but it would be a long and complicated process." Nia looked at Darius. How bad is the business, really? How deep is the hole? Darius sighed. Very bad, debts, 3 unfinished projects. The bank wants the loan repaid within 6 months. If I don't find the money, bankruptcy proceedings start. I lose the company, equipment, everything. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Nia asked quietly. Darius lowered his eyes. I was ashamed. I thought I could handle it myself. Looked for investors, tried to negotiate with the bank, tried restructuring. Nothing worked. And then Mom said she had a plan. I didn't ask for details, just hoped she'd come up with something. And she did, Nia chuckled bitterly. Use me as a financial airbag. Alana placed another document on the table. This is a bank statement on Darius's loan. It lists all conditions, terms, penalties. You should study this carefully. Darius took the statement and began to read. His face grew darker. It says here if I don't make the next payment within a month, the bank has the right to demand early repayment of the entire sum. And I can't make the payment. I have no cash flow. Nia looked at her father. Elijah sat silently, listening intently. What do you think? She asked him. Elijah thought for a moment. I think the situation is serious, but solvable. Darius, do you have assets, real estate, equipment, anything else? There's the office downtown, 2 trucks, construction equipment. But if I sell that, I won't have anything to work with. And if you don't sell, bankruptcy takes it all, Elijah noted. We need to calculate. Figure out what makes more sense. Sell part of the assets now and pay off at least some debt, or wait for bankruptcy and lose everything. Darius nodded. I understand. But even if I sell everything, it won't be enough to fully cover the loan. Alana intervened. You can try to negotiate a payment plan with the bank. If you show you're willing to cooperate, they might make concessions. I already tried, Darius said gloomily. They refused, said too much risk. Nia took his hand. Darius, what if we sell my condo? I can help. Darius looked at her sharply. No, absolutely not. I'm not letting you get dragged into this swamp. We're husband and wife, Nia reminded him. Your problems are my problems. Not in this case, Darius said firmly. I won't let you sacrifice your property for my mistakes. Elijah cleared his throat. Then we need a different approach. Darius, you said you have 3 unfinished projects. Can they be sold? At least one? Darius thought. One project is almost halfway done. It's a residential house. Only interior finishing is left. If I find a buyer willing to take over and finish the project, I could get decent money. How much? Elijah asked. 600,000, maybe more. That's what we need, Elijah nodded. Darius perked up. Yeah, that could work. We need to find a buyer. Alana pulled out a business card and handed it to Darius. I have a client in real estate. He might be interested. Call him. Tell him I sent you. Darius took the card and nodded. Thank you. Alana gathered her documents and stood up. I have to go. If you need anything, call. I'm no longer working with Loretta, so I can help you. They said their goodbyes. Alana left, leaving the 3 of them at the table. Nia looked at Darius. We'll find a buyer. Darius nodded. Yeah, it's the best move we have right now. Elijah stood up. I should go too. You guys got this. Nia stood and hugged her father. Thank you for everything. Elijah patted her awkwardly on the back. Call if you need anything. I'm always around. He left, and Nia was alone with Darius. They sat in silence. Nia, Darius began quietly. Forgive me for everything, for the debts, for my mother, for dragging you into this nightmare. Nia took his hand. We'll get through it, together. Darius nodded. For the first time in 2 days, a faint smile appeared on his face. Together. That evening, Darius called Alana's client, arranged a meeting for the next day. The man turned out to be interested and promised to come see the site. Meanwhile, Nia contacted her colleagues at work, checking if anyone knew people needing construction services. A few leads turned up. They worked smoothly, like a team, and with each day the situation began to look a little less hopeless. And Loretta Mercer sat in her house realizing she had lost. Her son cut ties. Her daughter-in-law knew the truth. The lawyers switched sides. The scheme collapsed, and now all she could do was watch Darius try to climb out of the hole she herself had driven him into. The next 2 weeks flew by in a frantic rhythm. Darius met with Alana Dubois' client, showed the unfinished site, conducted negotiations. The buyer turned out to be a serious investor looking for promising projects. He agreed to buy the house for $600,000 on the condition that Darius help with the paperwork. The deal went through quickly. The money hit the account, and Darius immediately went to the bank and paid off the loan. When Darius walked out of the bank with signed documents confirming the loan payoff, he called Nia. "It's done," he said, his voice trembling with relief. "Loan closed." Nia closed her eyes and exhaled. The tension of the last weeks fell away like a heavy weight from her shoulders. "Darius, that's incredible! You did it!" "We did it," he corrected. "Without you, without your father, without Alana, I couldn't have." That evening they sat in the kitchen making plans. Darius drafted a business plan for the next 2 years. Nia helped, suggested ideas, crunched numbers. The 2 remaining projects could be finished thanks to new contacts she found through her colleagues. One was already ready to sign a contract. "We need stability," Darius said. "No risky projects, only vetted clients and clear deadlines." "Agreed," Nia nodded, "and no secrets from each other. If problems come up, we speak immediately." Darius took her hand. "I promise." They sat in silence, enjoying a rare moment of peace. But the peace didn't last long. The next day, Darius received a call from his mother. "We need to talk," Loretta said in a cold tone. "About what?" Darius asked, tensing up. "About your future, and how you intend to pay off the debt without my help." "I already paid off the debt," Darius answered. "I don't need your help." Pause. Then Loretta said, "You sold the property on Stone Street? The house we started together?" "Yes. So what?" "That property was registered to an LLC I partially funded. I have a share in that company. You had no right to sell it without my consent." Darius went cold. "What are you saying? What share? The company is mine." "Check the documents," Loretta said in an icy tone. 3 years ago, I injected capital into your LLC. You signed an agreement where I received a 20% stake. Did you forget?" Darius remembered. 3 years ago, when he was just starting to expand the business, his mother really did give him money. He signed some papers without reading them closely. Back then, it seemed like a formality. "Mom, are you serious? You want to contest the deal?" "I want you to understand, without me, you are nothing. You can't handle it. You never could. And now you've got yourself into even bigger trouble by selling my asset without consent." Darius was furious. "It's not your asset, it's my company." "Check the documents," Loretta repeated and hung up. Darius immediately called Alana Dubois. She arrived in an hour, studied all the LLC documents, and confirmed the worst fears. Yes, Loretta actually owned 20% of the company, and by law, major transactions, like selling real estate, required the consent of all members. He sold the object without her consent. She could challenge the deal in court. Darius sat on a chair and covered his face with his hands. "What do I do?" Alana thought. "There are 2 options. First, try to settle with Loretta, pay her compensation for her share in the LLC. If she agrees, the issue is closed. And the second? Second, prove she lost the right to participate in company management due to bad faith conduct. The attempt to drag your wife into a fraudulent scheme could be an argument, but it's long, and there's no guarantee the court will take our side." Darius looked at Nia. "What do you think?" Nia was silent for a few seconds, then said quietly, "I think we need to go all the way. Your mother tried to scam me, tried to use both of us. We need to put an end to this." Darius nodded. "Then we prepare a lawsuit. with all the evidence. And we show her how this ends if she continues trying to manipulate us. Alana agreed to take the case. She spent a week preparing documents, gathered all evidence of the fraudulent scheme, drafted a detailed complaint demanding Loretta's exclusion from the company's members based on bad faith conduct and abuse of member rights. When everything was ready, Darius called his mother. "We need to meet," he said coldly. "I have documents you need to see." Loretta agreed. They met at the same cafe where the meeting with Alana had taken place recently. Loretta arrived alone, without a lawyer. She looked confident, even slightly arrogant. "I'm listening, Darius," she said, sitting at the table. "What did you want to show me?" Darius silently placed a thick folder in front of her. Loretta opened it and began to read. With every page, her face grew paler. She flipped through the document slowly, reading every word. The complaint was drafted impeccably. It detailed the scheme Loretta tried to pull off. Preparation of documents making Nia a solidary debtor without her real understanding of the consequences. Attached were copies of the transport service order with compromising comments, copies of the signature documents themselves, statements from Alana Dubois, who was ready to testify against Loretta. Then came the justification for the demand. Loretta Mercer systematically abused member rights, acted in bad faith, tried to use her position to commit fraudulent acts. Such behavior is incompatible with participation in the company and damages its reputation. At the end of the document was a legal assessment. Given such evidence, the court will highly likely decide to exclude the member from the company without compensation for the share. Moreover, Loretta Mercer's actions could be qualified as attempted fraud, potentially leading to criminal prosecution. Loretta read to the end and slowly closed the folder. Her hands were trembling slightly. She looked up at her son. "Are you really ready to sue me?" Her voice was quiet, but steel rang in it. "If you don't stop interfering in our lives, yes," Darius answered firmly. "I gave you a chance. You crossed the line. Now you have a choice. Either you voluntarily exit the LLC, or we file this in court. And then you not only lose, but you risk a criminal record." Loretta was silent, looking at the folder in front of her, then at her son. Rage and calculation battled in her eyes. "Do you understand what you're doing?" she asked. "You're turning your back on the mother who raised you your whole life, for some girl you barely know." "I'm turning my back on the person who tried to destroy my family on the first day after the wedding," Darius replied. "Mom, I love you, but I won't let you manipulate me and my wife. You have 3 days to think. Either you sign the voluntary withdrawal agreement or we file." Loretta took the folder, stood up from the table. "I'll think about it," she said coldly, and walked out of the cafe. For 3 days, Darius waited for an answer. Nia supported him, but saw how hard this standoff with his mother was on him. On the 3rd day, Loretta called. "I agree," she said shortly. "Send the agreement. I'll sign." Alana Dubois quickly prepared the agreement for Loretta's withdrawal from the members list. Her share was valued at $250,000, fair market value at the time of exit. Loretta signed the documents without extra words, took the money, and disappeared from Darius's life. When it was all over, Darius sat on the balcony looking at the city. Nia came out to him, hugged his shoulders. "Are you okay?" Darius nodded. "Yeah, just weird. She backed down herself, realized she'd lose." "You gave her a choice," Nia said quietly. "A dignified exit. It was the right thing to do." Darius hugged her. "Now we can live in peace, without her shadow over us." "I know, but it's still hard." Nia sat next to him. "Darius, you did the right thing. You protected us, protected our future. Sometimes you have to make hard choices." Darius hugged her. "Thank you for being here, for believing in me." They sat in silence, watching the city sink into evening lights. A few days later, Nia met with her father. They arranged to see each other at the same cafe where it all started. Elijah arrived on time, sat opposite his daughter, and smiled. "Heard you guys handled it. Congratulations." Nia nodded. "Thank you. Without you, this wouldn't have happened." Elijah shook his head. You handled it yourselves. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time." Nia looked at him. "You didn't just happen to be there. You came, despite having no right, despite me hating you for 20 years. Elijah lowered his gaze. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, Nia. I don't have the right." "I don't forgive you," Nia said quietly. "For leaving, for Mom dying alone while you were hiding somewhere. I can't forgive that." Elijah nodded. "I understand." "But I am grateful," Nia continued, "for saving me, for not walking past. You didn't return to my life. You just showed up where you were needed, and that means a lot." Elijah looked up. His eyes were moist. "It's all I could do." "Maybe, with time, we can build something new, not a father-daughter relationship, but something of our own. Honest." Elijah squeezed her hand. "I would like that." They sat a little longer, talked about life, about plans, then said goodbye and went their separate ways. Nia walked down the street feeling that something inside had changed. Not forgiveness, but acceptance. Acceptance that the past cannot be changed, but the future can be built. Meanwhile, Darius finished the remaining projects. New contacts Nia found brought steady orders. The company began to recover. Slowly but surely, life entered a normal rhythm. Loretta didn't call again, didn't try to reach out. She vanished from their lives as suddenly as Elijah had once vanished from Nia's. Darius sometimes thought about her, but didn't call. He understood. Right now, this was better for everyone. 6 months later, Nia found out she was pregnant. When she told Darius, he cried. For the first time in all this, he allowed himself to show weakness. He hugged her and wept, repeating, thank you for everything." They sat in the kitchen, holding hands, making plans. The nursery, names, their child's future. A future they were building together, honestly, without lies or manipulation. Nia called her father and shared the news. Elijah was silent for a few seconds, then said quietly, "I'd be glad to meet my grandchild, if you'll allow it." "I'll allow it," Nia answered. "It's a deal," Elijah agreed. Life went on, with its problems, joys, challenges, but the main thing was that they were going through it all together. Darius and Nia learned to trust each other completely, learned to tell the truth even when it was unpleasant, learned to protect their family from those trying to manipulate them. So ended the story of a wedding that almost turned into a trap, and began the story of a family that walked through fire and came out stronger. A story in which even those who left many years ago could return, not to ask for forgiveness, but simply to be there when it was needed most. And somewhere on the other side of town, Loretta Mercer sat in her house, looking at a photo of little Darius. Maybe, with time, she would understand her mistakes. Maybe someday she would learn to love without controlling, to help without manipulating. And then, perhaps, she would have a chance to know her grandchild. But that would depend only on her readiness to change and accept the rules established by Darius and Nia. The door isn't closed forever, but she no longer holds the key to her son's life. There is only hope.